All right, guys, welcome back to another Big Buck Blueprint podcast. We got our buddy Brandon Burman from Kentucky, and man, I'm telling y'all, they just keep getting better and better. And I don't know, Kentucky's going to run out of whitetail here pretty soon because they're dropping like flies, and they just keep getting bigger and bigger. But this right here, y'all stay tuned. But this is the biggest, largest, perfect 8-point ever taken with a compound bow. It's incredible. I mean, the sheer mass of this deer, the tine length, everything. And Brandon is a big guy, so you'll get into that. But we're going to go into detail about this deer. Very, very cool story. But Brandon Burman, tell us a little bit about yourself, buddy.
What's going on, man? Just had my first son November 22nd last year. I work at Gordon Food Service. It's kind of hard to describe, but a merge operator there. I kind of make sure the system runs efficiently.
Yeah.
And I love hunting and fishing, man.
Live and breathe it, man. Who got you into hunting?
Man, my grandfather is the one who really got my passion for hunting going. My dad hunted more squirrel and stuff. Wasn't a big deer hunter. He didn't like sitting out there too long. But shooting guns wise, I mean, Dad got me in that. But my grandfather is the reason I have that passion for hunting. I mean, he's got it, through him as well. And
yeah,
that's just it's.
How old were you when you killed your first animal? Killed your first whitetail, rather, I guess.
Man, I guess my first buck, I was probably 11 or 12, something like that. So 6th, 7th grade, 8th grade, maybe.
Got started early, got the itch. Have you always been an archery hunter? Because I know you took this deer with a compound.
Archery is something I got into. I think I got my first bow sophomore year or something like that, or maybe it was junior year, sophomore year, something like that. And from there on, I was hooked, man. I've killed a bunch of doe and stuff, and I've had a few little bucks before these deer now that I'm getting, but didn't really have the opportunity I do now at deer back when I was younger. Neighbors kind of shoot just about anything that walk. I'm sure you've heard that before.
Yeah, if it's brown, it's down. And that's crazy, man, because
yeah.
I was talking to somebody the other day about that. It seems like that whole philosophy is kind of out the door here lately. It's brown, it's down, is gone. I mean, people really 100%. Are, I think, with trail cameras, they're really taking their time to take inventory of what it is, what they got on their property. They're taking time, if they got 170 inch or 150, if that 150 comes out, they're not shooting that 150. They're going to shoot that, hold out for that 170. I mean, there's a lot of things, the rules for Kentucky. I think, what is it, a $1 state, correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I think that helps out quite a bit too.
Mm-hmm. And then I know the feeding, there's some laws with that. I think there's a lot of factors that go into it, but definitely Kentucky, I've got to give it to y'all. I mean, there's some formula is working very, very well. I mean, there's some good deer hitting the ground, ain't no doubt. But
a lot of them.
How many acres are you hunting in particular? Where you killed this deer on?
Where I'm hunting, it's only maybe 100 acres.
Wow.
I mean, no giant farm, nothing crazy like that.
Is it like rolling hills? Is it hardwood, ag?
Farmland, creeks, draws, stuff like that. They run in between the farmland itself. But yeah, mainly no huge amount of woods or anything like that. It's got little parcels and stuff that connect to neighbors and whatnot, but mostly ag and like I said, draws and whatnot.
Yeah. That holds them, man, and no pressure if you hunt it right. And a lot of people that I did a podcast just the other day on that. I think it was 180 something, right at 180 inch from Kentucky. He killed that thing on like 15 acres. I mean, you don't need a lot of land to hold and keep good deer. You just got to keep it. There's some rules to it. Can't pressure it. You got to keep feeding. As long as they have that feed water cover and a doe during the rut, they're going to stay. Now, they might venture off, but definitely you've gotten the right formula for sure. So let's just jump straight into this because everybody, that's why they're here, obviously. Nobody really – they care about Brandon. But what they want to hear about is this dang deer, man. Let's talk about this deer. So we'll go into the score about it later, and I want you to show it because you got it there. I'm so excited to bring it up on the screen if it will fit in that little square that we got. But – how go into detail, man. Let's tell us a little bit about this deer. How many years of history you have with it? I mean, how trail cam, everything. leading up to it?
Man, I mean, we're only thinking he's 4. We've had him on camera for 3 years. So, uh, last year was we're thinking he was 3 for sure, just off body size. I mean, antler as well. But uh, the year prior, he was a small little deer, but he kind of had the same characteristics. Tight and heavy. Uh, but uh, but yeah, I mean, cameras play a huge role in it. I
Yeah.
mean, multiple daylight, evening, middle of the night, morning. I mean, once we kind of I had my heart set on him last year. It was go time this year. We got quite a few cameras out on that little 100 acres. I mean, if he walked into it, we had him.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think he'd score last year? Just out of this question.
Man, he put on a lot.
He did.
I don't know. I mean, really, I think to say he was probably 100, maybe 40,
Wow.
maybe somewhere in
Wow.
there.
Are you doing
High 30s, low 40s.
any supplement feeding like mineral salts, anything, or is it just
Yeah,
you think
we run minerals.
you think he's getting you think he had that jump from that, or was it ag, or do you think that's just his genetics? Just
I think. Well, I mean, obviously, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a magical formula out there that grow them mass like that. I think that is genetics, but I mean, we run minerals as well, and the ag I think helps out as well. I think that's why Kentucky does so good. It's a good blend of ag, woods, and whatnot. I mean, if they got a food source that they can keep their teeth longer instead of eating acorns, I think it helps.
that you're so right, so right. So I guess that was last year. You had him on camera. He's a pretty dang good deer. Obviously, he grew a lot of inches. But let's fast forward to this year. When did you get your cameras out? When did you first get him on camera? And how did you know it was him? I guess probably from them long brow tines is kind of what I
Yeah.
signify him as. He's pretty impressive.
Well, we ran some cameras for turkey season, trying to catch where some would be and stuff like that too. So when we started getting a few bucks, I mean, he had some pretty good bases. We had a pretty good idea who that was going to be already. I mean, and so I mean, we had him on camera early this year as well. And from turkey season on, uh, you know, once we had 2 cameras out and once we knew who it was for sure, and he was developing and I mean putting on some substantial bone, I mean, it went from 2 cameras to I think 6 cameras. I mean, we had quite a few out there and started getting more and more pictures of him growing, and that number of what we thought he might score, and we're not score freaks by any means, but we're after mature deer, and thinking he's high 50s and then going to, man, he might be 160s. And, me and Didi bouncing it off there at the last week. He's like, man, he's for sure high 60s, he could somehow go 70s, which is crazy. I mean,
It is.
I mean, really, I don't think 70s was ever on the table because it takes so much for an 8 to do that. I mean, we were thinking he was at least in the 60s by
That's just
ease.
incredible. And when they get to a certain point, they honestly they all look the same. When it gets to it's you got to get your hands on them before you can really see
Yeah,
what he
for
is.
sure.
And with this one's mass, I think that that played a big role in him for sure too. But yeah,
Definitely.
so you got him on camera rolling into the season, and then I guess y'all's opener opened up. What was the date?
It'd be Saturday, I guess, the first weekend. It's always the first
First
weekend in September.
first
So the
weekend.
7th.
Okay,
Mhm.
and then roll us straight into that to what happened and kind of go into the hunt and into detail of that.
So I take off the opening week of bow season and the week before gun season starts. I've tried to do that every year. I just think, I mean, I've always tried to get after a velvet deer. I'm still after him. I mean, that's my bucket list. I mean, so many people, it comes easy around here to them, and I still haven't knocked one down. And so that was my goal. And obviously I like archery, so I like the week before gun season when the rut's finally hitting and whatnot. But so I had the first week off. The front we had, I mean, usually opening week of the opening day in Kentucky, it's usually blistering hot. I mean, the past, I don't know how many years, I don't think it's been below 90. I mean, all I can remember from early season is sweating, really. And so this front that came in, I mean, I think that kind of played something with all these big deer hitting the ground. I mean, it was beautiful. I mean, it was cool nights, really actually cold mornings and whatnot. And that Saturday, I mean, it was awesome. But with that tropical storm that come in, it changed the wind completely. I couldn't even hunt him opening day. And we're big wind hunters. I mean, you can spray down whatever you want, but you can't beat a deer's nose. And just that wind, it kept me from going in Saturday, even though, I mean, obviously I wanted to so bad. And, he was full velvet at that time. But so not being able to hunt the 7th, and then the Monday following, same wind, temperatures rising a tad. As the week went on, it got hotter and the wind started to shift. By Wednesday, the wind was favorable to where I could hunt him, but it was also 90 degrees. I mean, it was hot. But, looking at weather and stuff, we seen that front coming in. And for Friday, so I knew Thursday's my shot. Yeah. I mean, and not being, I've been off all week, and all I've been doing all year is wanting to get in the woods, but I just knew I couldn't hunt there. So instead of putting myself in front of a different deer and having to make that choice, I just said, you know what, I'm not going to hunt it.
Yeah.
And so leading up to it, waited till Thursday to go in that evening. 2 days prior, he was full velvet. And, that deer was pretty common on camera. I mean, almost, we had a decent pattern on him somewhat. And, like I said, 2 days before, full velvet, disappeared. Didn't get him on camera Tuesday, didn't get him on camera Wednesday.
Yeah.
So we knew, that it just seems that's what they like to do. They like to.
It's so crazy. They hit different gear. They just like, I know what's about to happen. I'm in hunker down mode. They changed their whole everything. But you had him on pretty pattern. Was he coming in during daytime pretty good on camera?
Right. I mean, right on the edge. I mean, yeah, we had plenty of daylight pictures of him and stuff. But as you get towards season, things change a little bit. But yeah, I mean, we had him right after shooting light, right on it. Morning time, stuff like that. So we knew he was in the area, and just because you don't get him on cam at that time, I mean, well, my story will show he was in the area way before, we would have even got him on camera. He just never made it to the corn.
What kind of set do you have? Explain to me, is it in like a draw? Is it on a ridge top? Is it acorns? What was he really hunting? Was it feed?
It's in a creek bottom in between a bean field and a food plot. And well, that food plot's very small, but it's also another big bean field on the right. But it's a creek bottom that runs up in between them both, and obviously a big wood lot in front of it. So and it's a lock on. I mean, you're sitting on one side of the creek bottom. To your left, it's a pretty good drop, and to your right, you're almost eye level with them somewhat if they come in from the right. But everything we had cam wise, I mean, he was coming from the left. We were pretty sure what neck of the woods he was bedding in.
Right.
There was also other deer as well that, they did the same patterning type things coming through that trail. And that, like I said, I had some cameras out, but Dee had helped me. He was actually paying for, I don't know, four or five cameras all of his own, trying to help me out get intel, what crossing he's taking, where he's entering, where he's going.
Yeah.
And
that's impressive.
So basically, creek bottom in between two fields.
Little pinch point. I mean, it sounds like he's got what he needs. He's got food. He's got water. He's got cover. Pinch point. He can probably see the field to see if there's anybody out there. I mean, he's got it set. So you held off. You waited. You waited for the weather. Obviously, you got one crack at a deer like this. There ain't no doubt. So you waited for that. So Thursday evening, you go into this set. This is the evening I think you made it happen. But
yeah,
tell me about it. So you go into that. How early did you go in?
Well, so that spot's a little intrusive as well. Like I said, being in between two beans, the creek bottom we had cleared out, months prior and kind of made us a good access way in. That way you don't bump anything going in or out as much as you can. And, like I said, though, it's still close enough to bedding and close enough to where, cams had plenty of dough on it and stuff like that. So we knew getting in and out was kind of risky already. You're going to be busted at some point, so you might as well wait until the best you can. And so I talked to my brother-in-law, and I'm like, hey, man, I kind of got an idea. Me and Didi had bounced it. I was like, would you like to go hunting on the other side? And that way, if it gets to be after dark and I'm covered up, you can at least soft bump them with the truck. And that way I could climb down and not, booger anything up, basically. And so he was like, yeah, man, I can do that. He's like, I don't get off till about 3:30. And is that fine? I was like, yeah, that's fine. We'll make it work. So, I'd already had clothes in the truck, took the shower, sent down, everything. And I was ready to go, met him out there. And, so we got out there. I don't know. I was in the stand right around 4, a little after 4, I guess. And, it was still pretty warm at that point. I mean, I'd say it was probably 80 something. And I'd got down in that bottom, walked all the way back up in there and climbed up and got situated and set. And, as the time went on, I mean, it started feeling better and better. Like the pressure dropped, I guess, from the front coming in. And I hadn't seen, I was really surprised by 7:20. I was really surprised. I hadn't seen a single deer. I mean, I'd seen a few turkeys about an hour before, but not seeing doe or anything like that. I was kind of getting worried. I was like, what is going on? Are they cutting silage somewhere? Are they doing something somewhere? I thought, what's going on? And so, here's my story. So I'm sitting there, and it's probably after 7:30ish, somewhere around in there. And in that tree, it's got plenty of cover. I mean, it's got a big part that comes up and it blocks, and you can see through it, holes and stuff, and you got a big lane in front of you, and you got a decent lane to the left. If you stand up, you're wide open, but sitting down, you are concealed, and a cardinal flies up and lands right in front of me. I mean, I could have reached out and grabbed it, and I'm sitting there and looking at it, and, it made me think of my Nana. We had lost her back 4 days before my son was born, and she battled cancer and stuff. And she lost her fight, and it kind of got me thinking, I mean, the woods have always been my church, man.
Yeah.
Like I believe in God, but I've never been super religious. My family, my grandpa's, church going man. I mean, they're religious and stuff. And I've struggled in the past with it, not necessarily believing in God, but, different things, as we all do.
No doubt,
And,
dude. Yeah.
So I'm talking to her about life, the baby. We have another one on the way as well. Like,
Congrats.
what are we going to do?
Yeah.
Just, my grandpa was the mediator. My Nana was the rock. So, not having that rock to go to and bounce these things off of, so getting out there hunting, that's where I started, talking to her again. And, I just told her, watch over my boy, and I'll talk to you again soon. And so after that, I sat there and I kind of thought, well, I looked around, hadn't seen nothing. And I said, well, God, big man, it's your turn. I guess let's have a talk. So, I'm talking to him, and I'm asking him, if he can forgive me, and
Wow.
I'm working on it. And watch over my boy. Of course, babies get sick, but he's been quite sick, a lot more than we'd like. And I'm like, if you can give me some of it, his little helpless butt doesn't need it, and
that is awesome.
And I'm like, but then just talking to him, and, I'm blessed with the family I have, and the tight group of friends, and I consider family. And, I'm thanking him, and, I just asked, I'm like, continue showing me you're the way, and it wasn't, I kind of looked in, I checked the crossing, because I'm expecting him to pop out 45 yards in front of me. That's the main crossing we're thinking he's coming from, because we have a camera up in the corner, a camera down. We hadn't been getting him recently, and we've been getting him right in front of the corn, basically. And so I'm looking in there, squinting, trying to see. It's not dark yet by no means. And I looked right and I looked left, and here he comes bobbing across the field. I mean, just antlers swinging, and I'm like, You couldn't have gave me a little more
Dude, I ain't
time.
gonna lie, dude. That
I'm
right
like,
there
are
is
you
one of the
kidding me?
most. That's one of the most touching. Seriously, I love that. And then ain't no doubt your
Code
nana
chills,
was
man.
there. I know I got chills too. Like that's incredible. Like your nana was there. Like that's dude. That's very touching. And they say a red cardinal. I mean, it's dude. I got chills. Okay, that's very
It's
impressive.
cliche, man.
It
It's
is, but dude,
cliche.
it's
I've heard it,
legit,
dude,
man.
but that's my story. I
And
can't tell it
for
any other
you
way.
for you sharing and being open to share that, I thank you so much. But that as Christians, we all fall short, dude, and we all sin. And nobody's perfect. But for you to admit that as a man and dude, that hands down, dude, that's awesome. I mean, I still got chills. Can't get it off.
Yes, sir.
But dude, yeah. So he's coming. He's coming down the trail, and then kind
Oh
of go
yeah.
into that now.
I caught him. I mean, when I seen him, he's 85, 90 yards. I mean, and I told that too. Your brain does weird things, man, when you see big deer. I mean, at least mine does. And I've been looking at that deer all year long, and I mean, heck, that's kind of like Didi made a joke when I told him the story. He said, "You can draw it. We can draw it with our eyes closed, man. How'd you not know immediately?" And I'm looking, I'm thinking, "Oh my gosh, he's a monster." I'm like, "Who is that?" And he turns his head, and I seen the mask, and then it all clicked. But that's kind of like I'm just trying to throw a little part of it, like it was it was buck fever all over
No
again for
doubt,
me.
dude.
I mean, and he's, like I said, he's coming and he's beelining for me. And at that point, I'm grabbing my bow, and like I said, there's cover in front of me, and I'm kind of tucking it in and getting it set in front of me. And I'm thinking, all right, what's he gonna do? And he gets out of the beans, and there's kind of as that field rolls down into that creek bottom, it comes up, and they don't have it planted. It's more, I guess it's too rocky for the beans to grow, so they didn't do it. But he hits that big brush pile, comes over to the fence, comes all the way down to 45 yards, and he's looking like he's going in that crossing. And I'm thinking, oh no, like I'm dialing to 40 at this point. I'm thinking, I'm gonna have to make it happen right here. And he makes it to that crossing and kind of looks, and he's looking at the corn and kind of looks back at the crossing. And I'm thinking, I'm gonna have to pull back, I guess. And which a couple of years ago, me and my brother-in-law, we shot all the time. I mean, I could easily have shot 40 back then. And this year I haven't practiced as much. So I was kind of worried. I was like, I don't want to have to do it.
Yeah.
And, as I'm about to, he kind of turns back and does a half moon and comes all the way. And I'm thinking, or when he first started, I'm thinking he's walking away. I'm like, well, don't leave. I said, I would have took it at 40. I'm like, I'm thinking, oh man, I'm gonna have to shoot him at 50 now. Well, he kind of half moons, and he comes all the way down under me, 10, 15 yards maybe. I mean, now I'm like, dude, you're too close. I'm like,
Yeah.
I know you're not where I want. You're too far. And I, like, what do you want? And, and I can see his antlers. I can't see his body this close. And like I said, that wall of cover, I couldn't really have pulled back when he was making that moon. I thought he was walking away. I was going to have to stand up. But as I'm getting ready to, he's starting to angle down. And I'm thinking, well, I'm going to let him do what he's going to do. And he comes down and stands under me. And that's when it's really beating, I mean, I can feel it in my wrists. I can hear it in my ears. I can feel it tapping my shoe in the bottom, I mean, I'm thumping at that point. Yeah. And he kind of, just stands down there, and he was messing with flies. Were getting him pretty bad, I guess, but he kept, messing with them. And then I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, he's at 10, and I'm looking around everywhere, and I'm like, I've already ranged everything 2 or 3 times. I know where everything is, but my brain can't remember because I'm just thinking about the big deer. And I'm looking around, and I'm thinking, where 20, where's 30, and as he starts walking, I'm like, oh man. So I'm dialing to 30. I'm thinking, well, if he's 20, I'll put it under his belly. If he's 40, I'll put it on his back. I'm not messing with it because I have a single pin.
Okay.
And I'm like, I'm not messing with him, or I'm locking 30 in. I can make it happen. And I look up, and there's a turkey feather in the field. I'd ranged it earlier, 27 yards. And I'm thinking, oh man. And where he's making a half moon, kind of half moon it again, he hits that turkey feather, and he starts scratching and getting it flies looking my way. And when he turns left and starts going, that's when I pulled back and nose touched the string, and the rest is history.
Gosh, dude, I'm like, I've been holding my breath this whole time. I got to get it. Whew, I got to take a breath. That's intense. So Gosh almighty, and you knew when you
You tell
shot.
me.
I know, dude. Like, and I know that feeling. It's in your ears. It's in your teeth. Like, it's in your body. You can just
Oh,
feel
yeah.
your whole body. You almost feel like the tap root of this tree is beating right now. There's no way it's
Yeah.
not.
I'm
I,
thinking, how does he not hear it?
and I've had it
That's what.
happen on a little 16-inch wide 8-point. It's just, but I can only imagine a deer of this caliber. So when you release the arrow, where did it hit? Right, perfect, right behind the shoulder.
Man, the Luminoc disappeared right where I was aiming. I mean, I couldn't ask for better, you
Yeah.
know. I mean, it went in and came out, and it all happened so fast. And you know, the deer hind kicks and bolts, jumps that fence, which it's kind of like where he runs cows and stuff. But anyway, he jumps that fence. It's on our property still, and I'm thinking, well, he just cleared that, and it's a decently high fence. I'm like, he just cleared that fence. Did I hit him good? I'm
Oh
like,
God, he starts second
no, I
guessing.
remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, I
Yeah.
remember the Luminoc where it hit, and I mean, it passed through. You know, it sounded great and everything. And I'm like, how did he cross that fence?
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, man, I know I made a good shot, but did I? And your brain, you start questioning everything, you know. And anyway, at that point, I'm shaking. I know I smoked him, you know, and I stopped and I listened, and I heard him crash. But I've heard that said so many times, and then we go look for a deer and you can't find a doe, or, you know, like throughout my life, you know, helping buddies find deer. I heard him crash. I heard him, but did you really? You know, like, you know, but I now looking back, I heard him crash, and I actually remember his legs kicking the ground, like scratching the ground, getting his last as he expired. And,
And
you know, but
well,
you're still in doubt with a deer like that, you know.
and the favorite part about this, I know you're probably going to share it, but this is my favorite part when he was explaining it to me, because he's already has. But you said you left the bow hanging at the base of the tree. You just ran, sprinted. He said,
Man, so whenever that happened, you know, I called Dee, and I told him, I said, I smoked him, man. We've always had a thing where we'll text bingo. I couldn't even text. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, I'm literally shaking like a 12 years old again, you know, and I'm just trying to get to his name, and I hit it, and I put it up to my ear, and he's like, hello? And I was like, dude, he's dead. He's dead. I smoked him. And he's like, shut up. No way. And I'm like, yes, dude, he's down. He's down. And, you know, I'm trying to breathe at this point. He's like, man, breathe, be quiet, calm down. And I'm like, I'm trying, dude, I'm trying, but I can't get it together, you know? And so anyway, I texted Josh, and I'm like, hey man, I got him. Come on, let's go. Well, before that, talking to Dee, he's working Monticello, so he's 2 hours away. And he waited for me for his big deer last year. He waited an hour-ish for me to get done taking my sister to make it to him to experience the walk-in and tracking and finding that deer. I mean, he shot him with a gun. He knew he smoked him, you know, but he still waited for me on his big experience. So it's only right. That was the first thing he said, you got to wait for me, man. And I'm like, dude, you're 2 hours away. How do I wait 2 hours? He was like, I did it for you, dude. You got to do it. So Josh, I tell him, I'm like, hey man, which that's the first deer I seen was him, no doe or anything like that. But at that point, you know, now deer are piling in. You know, there was another buck that was behind him, and doe are now at the corn, and you know, the woods are coming to life. It's right there at that hunting time, and I'm like, Josh, you're still gonna probably have to come in here and bump these deer off. And he's like, oh, I'm coming, man, I'm coming. So he comes back, and once he gets to the back, I start climbing down. Like I said, I let my bow down, but when my feet touched the ground, straight to that truck. And I said, man, let's go get the arrow. I was like, let's go get there. I know he smoked, but I got to know. And, you know, he's like, all right, let's go. So we quietly go find the arrow. And I mean, it's, you know, where I shot him, and just soaked, dude. I mean, bubbles on it. I mean, it's the biggest feeling of relief. Cause I know I did it. I knew I did what I needed to do, but
Yeah.
it's just confirmation
No
in your
doubt.
hand, you know.
It ain't
then
good.
it's like
It ain't.
so,
Yeah. You know it's some good
yeah.
blood. Oh my gosh. Yes. Ah.
And then, you know, from two men being quiet to now we're hugging and high fiving,
A bunch
and
of little teenage girls. Yeah.
I mean, it's wild. And then
That's impressive.
so I called Dee back, and I'm like, he smoked, bro. He smoked. And he's like, what's the arrow look like? And I'm like, it's bubbles and good blood. And he's like, what about where you hit him? And I'm like, man, it's good blood. I was like, there's no worry. And he's like, all right, good. I'm so glad. And So we'd walk back over to the truck, and I'd called one of my other buddies, Hunter, and told him, because he knew about this deer as well. We're hunting buddies and stuff. And he was like, man, I'm coming. Can I come? And I'm like, yeah, meet me down there. I said, I'm waiting 2 hours for Didi anyway. You might be able to help, kill some time.
Yeah.
So he makes it out there, and Didi shortly shows up, and then we get out there and get to going. And where I stuck the arrow by the turkey feather, we do it like you would if you shot anything. We go first blood, start our track, and once we got to the fence, that was the first thing he said too. He said he jumped right here, and I was like, yeah, man, but he's done. I thought the same thing, and he was like, okay, and so maybe 25 yards, 30 yards max to the fence. And then on the other side, he's maximum 40 yards. I mean, we'd cross the fence and trying to blood, and then eventually light up. There he is,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, dude. That's one of the best stories. I honestly, and I'm not even kidding. The whole red cardinal, oh my God, that's very touching, very touching. Let me see. I just pull him up. I got to see him. And so we had this thing scored. We got in touch with one of our scorers, Dale, and oh my gosh, that is so impressive. It's incredible. And you're what did you say, Brandon? You're 6'5".
I'm 6'5" and 300, man.
Okay, 6'5" and 300. So when you see the picture, yeah, it looks like, oh, that's a good deer, But if you really realize, okay, Brandon is 6'5", sitting behind that, and he wasn't long arming it. Gosh almighty, man, that is incredible.
Yeah.
You won't beat that. I don't think you'll ever beat that. Not in an 8-point category anyway.
I don't think so, man.
There's
I don't think
way.
I won't.
Oh my gosh,
sure.
that is so impressive. Man,
yeah, it's surreal, man.
Unbelievable. Well, congratulations, dude. I don't know what else to say. I think we got it out there. We got the story that people wanted to hear. And dude, this deer has absolutely taken over social media. And every year we have a handful of deer that do. You are without a doubt the first one to happen for this deer season. And you probably might be one of the top biggest, because I mean you have got a lot of hits on this deer. I can't wait to drop it, but just killed the dang thing last Thursday. We're going to drop this podcast this week. That's what these big buck blueprints are all about. Sharing your tips about how he came in, where your position, just whenever you pull back, all of that, man, that's what this podcast is about. And then you sharing the testimonial about that. We all fall short, man, as Christians. Hats down, dude. God bless you, man. I really, really commend you for that. And I hope nothing but the best for you. I hope next year, because you can't shoot another one this year. But I hope next year I hope you break 200, and I hope he's velvet.
Oh, man.
Man, incredible.
That'd be nice.
Well, Brandon, anything else you want to share, buddy?
Oh, man, I just appreciate y'all's time. I mean, growing up, going to the bathroom and reading Buckmasters, it's just wild that I'm you guys are calling and messaging, and I'm talking to you. I mean, it's just, it's surreal,
And dude, it ain't too late. You might be on one of them Buckmasters magazines before it's all said and done. I don't know. I can't speak for that side, but there's a dang good chance, because, I mean, this is the number one top, most perfect, typical 8-point ever taken with the compound. You can't beat it. But, Brandon, we appreciate it, dude. That concludes this Big Buck Blueprint podcast. We got another one coming up later this week, so just appreciate y'all for watching. Congrats, Brandon. Be good up there.
Thank y'all.
All right. See you, buddy.